Murasaki Shikibu, born in Kyoto, Japan around 973, died in Kyoto, Japan around 1025. A Japanese writer famous for the tale of Genji, sometimes considered the world's oldest novel and a major influence on Japanese literature. Rice Cakes and Moonlight. Murasaki Shikibu excelled at her studies. "Just my luck," her father would sigh. "If only you were a boy, how proud I would be." But he did not stop her education, even though it was an era when scholarly girls were looked down upon. Murasaki took to concealing some of her learning, such as her ability to write and read in Chinese, considered then to be impossible tasks for women. At about age 25, she married and had a daughter. After her husband died 2 years later, Murasaki spent several anxious years not knowing what her future would hold. Her one desire as a widow was to be inconspicuous, to avoid any behavior that might give people cause for gossip. She would sit for hours by the window watching a flower open in the moonlight, making notes for a novel. Then her father arranged to have Murasaki appointed as a lady-in-waiting to the teenage Empress Shoshi. Murasaki had few duties around the palace, leaving her plenty of time to continue her writing. Life at court was cut off from the rest of the world. People spent their time with superficial poetry, music, romance, and gossip. Women in particular were kept secluded. Shoshi's court was more strict than most. When men were around, for example, women had to hide themselves behind screens. Murasaki would have preferred another court, where ladies were always off to see the fading of the moon at dawn, as she wrote in her secret diary. Murasaki also disliked the attention of Shoshi's father, the Minister of State. He would hand her plum blossoms over the top of her screen, putting her in the uncomfortable position of having to write him thank-you poems. Like others in court, he made fun of the serious novel she was writing. Shoshi wanted to learn Chinese, a desire that was shocking in her society. Word leaked out that Murasaki knew Chinese, and in exchange for teaching her, Shoshi gave Murasaki presents of paper, rare at the time, brushes, and ink. Murasaki was considered quiet, melancholy, even pretentious. She liked to live buried in my own thoughts like a tree stump in the earth. Poetry was a court social activity, but she stayed out of the competitions. She imagined that others thought her a monster, while she thought of herself as kind and gentle. Murasaki did enjoy the complexities of court clothing. Women wore many layers of gauze robes, and the color combinations of the sleeves had certain meanings. The meanings are lost today, but we know that Murasaki followed the rules of fashion. She might wear a jacket with cuffs of white lined with pale green, over one robe of red lined with purple, and another of pale green lined with dark green. Otherwise, Murasaki lived simply. She ate rice cakes and kept her room warm by burning charcoal in a hibachi. She owned 2 stringed instruments called kotos, on which she played sad music in the evenings. In her room were 2 cupboards full of poems, tales, and Chinese books that she looked at when she felt lonely. Sometimes she destroyed old letters and papers by burning them, or by using them to make doll-houses. She thought for a while of becoming a Buddhist nun. Looking at the moon was thought dangerous for women. It was said to cause premature aging, and older women were treated harshly in this society. But Murasaki found ways to keep watching the moon, and took to calling herself a decrepit old fossil. It is believed that she was 52 when she died. Her daughter Kenshi also wrote poetry, and had many poems chosen for royal collections. She rose to the position of principal handmaid, and may have lived until she was 84. Bookmarks. Amid the brilliant but frivolous court society, Murasaki disliked the rudeness of the men around her. None of them were like the hero of her novel, Prince Genji, the Shining One. In The Tale of Genji, a chronicle of the career of the prince and the women he was associated with, Murasaki used writing techniques that did not appear in Western literature for centuries. She depicted human emotions and changes in nature in ways never seen before and influential ever since. The heroine in The Tale of Genji is named Murasaki. This was not a case of the author naming a character after herself. Rather, the name by which she is now known combined a title of her father's, Shikibu, and the name of the heroine she created. Murasaki Shikibu's real name, like those of most Japanese women of that time, is unknown.